Growing up in a Christian home has really helped me because it gives me a sense of safety almost, because I know that God's always there for me and that anytime I'm going through tough times, and I can always go to my family of course, but I can always go to God and talk to Him and get in His Word and know that He's always going to be there for me. The role model my mom has been for me is I kind of look up to her almost. She's a great personality. She's so nice and shows so much care for everyone, even the people that may not be as deserving of it, I guess. And so I always try to strive to be like she is, and she's always strong in her struggles in life. She's always fought through things, and even through the really rough times, whenever she may think that she's not gonna get through it, or that she just thinks, oh, I'm all alone, or she just doesn't think she's gonna get through it, that she has always fought through that kind of stuff. The way they've been most influential to me is my parents. Is I guess I was kind of a quiet kid, and so I always kept my brother close to me and my parents as well, because my dad always wanted to keep a good relationship with me and my mom as well. I know I could always go to them, and so the things that they did in their lives, the way they reacted with people, the way they acted around us, always came to me. I caught on to that, and so I act a lot with like my dad did or does, and I also get things from my mom as well. The hardest thing my family has experienced would have to be when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed with sarcoma cancer. At the time, I was so young. She was actually pregnant with my little brother, Jake, and my little brother, Drew, was probably about 3 or 4. I didn't really know what was going on, and to be honest, at that time, I didn't even know it was cancer. Dad would always, whenever he came home and we talked about it for the first time, he just said, Mom's really sick. Mom's really sick, we need to pray for her and keep her in our thoughts and things like that. Whenever that was going on, I did keep her in my thoughts, and me being little, I tried my best to pray for her and everything, but I guess you could say I didn't think about it as much, so it may not have been as big a deal to me, but I know it was really hard on my mom because she was scared, of course, and it was really hard on her parents and my dad because we didn't really know what was going to happen. I know that she was just scared. She would sit at home sometimes, and while we were at school and while my dad was at work, she would just sit there, and she didn't know what was going to happen. I think that really freaked her out, and the same thing would go on with my dad, and also not just my mom's parents, but also my other family members, like my dad's parents. My mom did write a book. It's called The Thank You Room, and she self-published it. She wrote this book, and I thought I should read it. I was like, holy cow, this is really cool. My mom wrote a book. I should read this. So I read it for the first time, and I was older, so I knew a little bit more what was going on. I knew more of what had happened, and I read it from her perspective, and also the way her book was set up from other people's perspective, and what people went through to help us and my mom whenever this was all happening. I can remember sitting in my bed one night, and I was reading it, and I don't remember if it was who it was about, if it was about her or one of our friend or family members' experiences, but I just broke down. I was like, I just had to set the book down, and I just had to step away for a minute. I was like, it finally hit me. I had never realized how hard it truly had been on not only her, but the people around her. And I was just like, I sat there and I was like, holy cow, I didn't really realize what it was like. I had never really stepped in her shoes, so to speak, and thought about what she was going through, not just me. After my mom wrote the book, well, she was 5 years cancer-free. So we're all really excited about that. She goes to a checkup one day, she came back, her and our dad, and they talked about there was a reoccurrence of her cancer. It was in her lungs, her left lung. So this time it was a little bit more for me and my brother. It didn't freak us out, but it was like, didn't really know what to think about it because we didn't know what was going to happen because it was different this time. And we also knew more about what was going on, so we were, it was kind of like, what's going to happen? Are you going to be okay? When is this all? When are you going to have surgery? When we were just kind of throwing a lot of questions at her. And she also mentioned that this time she was going to have to go through chemotherapy. I was about 10 or 11, and so my brother was probably about 9. And I knew what it was, but I didn't really know what effect it had on people that had to have chemotherapy. And so they had to go in, and she had surgery on it. And we were there for the surgery. We were there with her, so we got to be with her, and everything went fine. The surgery was great, so we were all in pretty good spirits. While she was in chemotherapy, we were in school, hanging out there, and I can remember one day where I tried to think about my mom more and make sure she was in my thoughts more, so I wanted to make sure she was in my thoughts and that I was praying for her. And I can remember one day at school, I was just thinking about her, and I'm a pretty emotional guy, so I was just like, man, it hit me hard. And I was sitting in class and I had to tell my teacher, I was like, I gotta get out of here for a second, can I go to the bathroom or the office or something like that? I just kind of sat and thought about her for a second, and I just prayed for her. And I know that chemo was hard on my mom because it's obviously not fun having chemotherapy, and also she lost all of her hair, of course. And I think that cancer was really hard on her, but also the aftermath of it, losing her hair. She had to get wigs and everything like that. We would always talk, and she would always be like, man, I can't wait till the day till I have long hair again. Can't wait till I have my long hair again. But she would always sit around and talk about that, and I know that was also hard on her. She had that cancer in her lung, then she had to go through chemo, and then she had the effects of that. She had a reoccurrence. She got it after her cancer in her left lung. She got it in her right lung. And then she had another reoccurrence, and so they were going to go in and do cyberknife radiation, which got rid of the cancer. But later on, this was recent, so this was last summer. I was 14, and they were going to have to go in and do surgery, and they had to get rid of a part of her lung. Ended up being in the hospital longer than they intended her to be in there. And so she was on medicine for so long, she was cooped up in a bed so long, or in a hospital so long. That had a big effect on her. So when she came home, she was in a lot of pain. Our dad had recently got a new job, and so he was away more. I can remember she would just burst into tears a lot. She just sat in her chair thinking, God, why so many times? What's going on here? While my dad was gone, there was one day where I woke up, I made her breakfast, and then she started crying. One of the worst, in my opinion, one of the worst things to experience is a woman in your life, whether it be your mom or another loved one, cry in front of you and just break down like that. It really hurts. It's hard to handle. It's hard to be there with them. So I was just sitting there holding her hand. And at the time, I was getting emotional. I was breaking down. I hid my head because I didn't want her to see me cry. I was like, I gotta stay strong. I can't let her see me cry or it'll just make it worse. She got a little bit better, and then I just had to step away for a while. And I can remember going into the kitchen. I was a mess. I was just a huge mess. I tried to get in the Bible, and it helped, but I was still just bawling. And then one day my dad calls, he said, I'm so proud of you for staying there with your mom. That truly does show that you're starting to become a man, and that's one thing that shows is how you were able to stay with her like that through what she was going through, and I'm really proud of you. And I love hearing that stuff from my dad because I love him, and he is one of the people that influences me the most. And so to hear that from him it made me feel a lot better. And then I became stronger, and whenever I had to be there for my mom. The biggest thing that God has taught me out of all of this is to remember, always love God. No matter what you're going through, always love God and trust in Him, believe in Him, have faith in Him that He knows what He's doing, because God always has a plan. That plan may be rough. It may not be as easy on you or others. Quite frankly, I mean, you may not like it, but in the end, it's what's best because God knows what's best for you. His plans are always the right thing. And just remember that when you're going through tough times, just to know that God's there for you, and whatever you're going through, He knows what He's doing, and that's the right thing. My name is John Bohan, and I am second.